My name is Lidia. Thanks, Luke, for inviting me to talk about Vision And. Vision And is a company I co-founded with a couple of friends a couple of months ago. And our business case is quite easy. We are investing in blockchain assets and crypto assets. Because it's so easy, I want to start first about talking a bit why we are doing what we are doing, and why we believe that you should invest in blockchain too. So blockchain itself is a new technology in terms of human history lengths. However, if you look what blockchain is doing, it's actually not doing something new. So since there are humans, they try to reduce uncertainty when they're transacting with each other. When they started in small villages, they started with informal rules that help them transact with others, that help them trust in others that they actually don't know. But once villages grew, people started forming formal institutions like government banks to allow them to transact with others that they don't really trust. And in the last couple of years, we saw more and more online institutions. Companies like Airbnb and Uber are entering the space and are helping us transacting with people that we don't know. So we can rent an apartment somewhere around the world without knowing that person. But what online institutions are doing is actually not something totally different to what formal institutions are doing. It's still that we are having a middleman that is allowing us to transact with others. We still have to trust this one middleman. So now we are entering blockchain technology time, and for the first time in human history, it's possible actually that we are entering transactions with people that we don't know at all, that we don't trust, but we don't need that middleman. We don't need the formal institutions. We don't need the online institutions like Airbnb and Uber anymore. So we believe in our company, Vision And, that blockchain is going to revolutionize, like a lot of spaces, a lot of industries. Question is, which industries are there? So we see a lot of blockchain currencies. So Bitcoin is the prime example. That's one example only, though. We see a lot of other use cases that are blockchain based. Famous as well are developer tools with Ethereum at the forefront. We then see a lot of financial and non-financial applications. So financial, for example, would be Ripple, which totally changes the way banks could transact. Banks could settle their transactions. And we see a couple of non-financial use cases. This is really a small industry still, but I think PixelChain is a good example here, where we have financial as well, but also really good non-financial applications of blockchain technology. What we are doing at Vision And is investing in all those use cases. We invest in blockchain-based currencies, but we also invest in blockchain-based use cases that are not currency-oriented. I want to show you, so we are doing some internal research in our company, and we are trying to see this blockchain universe as a really big universe and try to figure out which companies are good ones to invest in. So we are doing our studies, and I want to show you a couple of graphs we are doing and how we are seeing the market. So this is a timeline showing from 2009 when Bitcoin started to today, all the different applications out there. In colors, you see the use case. So dark blue is currency, and not dark blue are not currency use cases. And the size of the circles is the current market capitalization. So we see Bitcoin that started really, obviously the biggest coin out there. Dark blue, it's a currency. And then we see all those new use cases coming up, which are not that dark blue anymore. So we see more and more use cases coming up, blockchain-based, which are developer tools, which are financial and non-financial applications. Another graph I really like personally, you don't have to read what's written there, but this illustrates the different technologies implemented in blockchain. So blockchain does not equal blockchain. There's very different blockchain technologies out there. Dark blue is projects that are based on proof of work consensus algorithms known from Bitcoin. And the other colors show different forms of not proof of work algorithms. So it could be proof of work and proof of stake combination, or totally different algorithms. The main point to take away here is that And there's not one single blockchain technology. There are many others evolving, and if you want to be in the space, you have to diversify across those technologies as well, because different technologies fit different use cases, and it's really good to have an overview about all those technologies. And the third graph I want to show you is that one here. The bubbles are companies in the Nasdaq tech market in blue, and in gold are the crypto assets. We see that a couple of crypto assets are quite big already, also compared to big tech companies. So we see Bitcoin here or Ripple here, which we see them. So they seem to be really big in that space. Obviously, market capitalization is illustrated by the size of the circles. But we also see that it's just a couple that are already really big. A lot of projects are still small. They have huge market capitalizations if you look at them individually, and a lot of them have market capitalization are way too high for what they actually have. But if you look at the industry as a whole, you see that there is quite a lot of potential still for an industry like blockchain, which is the future of technology, to evolve within that ecosystem of tech companies. That's my pitch for blockchain technology. So what we are doing is we invest in those companies. We invest in all those different use cases. First reason to do that for us is that we get access to this blockchain technology. We believe that it's going to be the future, and investing today, even though those use cases are still really at the beginning, makes a lot of sense for us if you want to be in the technology for the long run. Investing in crypto assets has, in a portfolio context, a really good add-on today. Today, crypto assets don't move in line with other assets as equity or bonds. So if you invest in crypto assets, you get a diversification benefit, meaning that when stocks drop, your crypto assets might not. Last week was a different story, though. It can also be that both drop at the same time. So it's not insurance for not having that. We believe it's going to grow even more, and we believe it makes sense to be in there today. So when we are in meetings, the sentence we hear most is, okay, I believe in this technology, don't tell me more about it, but I don't like cryptocurrencies. I understand the sense totally. I even agree with it to a certain extent. But the issue is that if you want to invest in blockchain technology today, you have to do it via crypto assets. Because as we also have heard from PixelChain, the way to raise money, if you're a blockchain-based company today, is via ICOs. It makes a lot of sense to invest via crypto assets into those companies. You could also invest in listed companies like Microsoft. You have they do certain blockchain projects. However, the amount of so if you invest in Microsoft and a big thing happens in the blockchain technology, the price movement of the Microsoft share is not really in line with the whole blockchain technology. It's just a small fraction of the whole company. So you could do that, but we currently, in our company, don't invest in listed companies because it's just not pure blockchain enough. But at some point, we're going to have blockchain companies which issue proper shares, which might be listed at some point, which we're going to invest in. So we don't focus on crypto assets only, but we focus on blockchain only. But currently, predominantly crypto assets in that sense. So to quickly diversify summarize what we are doing. We are giving investors that invest with us, and it's mainly qualified investors, meaning family offices, wealthy individuals which want to get access to the blockchain space. We get them an access to the whole blockchain universe. They don't have to choose their stocks individually. We do that for them. We have a long-term approach, so we're not going to do quant trading strategies. We're not going to buy something today and sell it tomorrow. If we see a project we believe in, we're going to buy it today and we're going to hold it until it makes sense, or until the pump scheme is so high that we have to absolutely sell it. But generally, we have a long-term investment approach. how our investors invest with us is via two routes. And they can buy investment products or they can have managed accounts. That means that with investment products, you buy, as you would buy a share, it's really easy to buy. We are launching that right now. So up to now, we didn't have any blockchain-based investment products. There are certain certificates on single coins, so you can go to Swissquote and buy a Bitcoin certificate, for example, but you don't have a diversified basket. So that's what's coming out end of February from our company. And then we have to manage accounts. That's where we are live already. That's where we can take client funds and invest them in their names via our bank partner. So we have a banking partner which is responsible for the storage of the assets, and they make sure that they're also the gatekeeper. So we can't take client money and send it to an account of ours. We can just transact client money in their name. That's on the managed account side. Why investors are investing with us? First, that's one of the most important things. You get so many projects out there, so many white papers to read. We don't even have the time to read everything. Can't imagine someone that's not doing that for his main job. So we are looking at the market. We are analyzing all the projects, or the projects we think they make sense to invest in. We look at them and we decide which one we invest in. We have a setup that's highly secure, so we don't store any assets ourselves. We don't have a vault. We leave that all with the banks. The banks they have the processes in place to have a custodianship about assets from the traditional world. So we are using that for the crypto world as well. They're doing the whole storage and allow us to offer a secure solution for our clients. We are the guide for our clients from A to Z. So if someone doesn't know where to invest in, we are the ones looking at the markets and decide where to invest in. But if someone also doesn't know how to pay taxes on those investments, we help them figure out how they have to pay the taxes. So it's a really a partnership with our clients. Sorry? Or not. So we generally advise against not paying, but it's their ultimate end decision, yeah. And we give access to this new world, which we believe is going to be the future. Our clients seem so too, and that's where we see our place to be. Thank you. Yeah.
So are you only investing in these use cases via ICOs, or you're placing direct investment also?
So first step is direct investments in crypto assets. That means we are focused on the bigger already listed coins as a first step. That has to do with security reason again. So we need to have on the storage side a banking partner, and the banking partner needs to be able to store whatever we tell him to store. And currently those are the major coins. In the next let's say like 2 months, we'll be able to also store ERC20 tokens, so we can invest in smaller projects as well. ICO is going to be the third step, so that we are able to invest in companies that are not listed yet. They have to have an intent to be listed, because we should only invest in liquid assets. But that's the third step. I assume that's going to be in summer when we start investing in ICO directly as well.
So you said the managed accounts, they are already live since when?
So we have the regulatory approval since December. January we started with just our transacting with our own funds, because we want to make sure that all the processes are in place. And now we are starting to allocate the client funds as well. That's just all happening in February now.
But the regulatory approval that you got in December, is that you're an asset manager, or what?
Yeah. So as a Swiss asset manager, you need to get approval from the SRO. That's a FINMA subordinated organization, and we got approval there. So it's not directly FINMA licensed, but SRO licensed. It's VQF, yeah.
But I don't get it, because you're saying like you have a custodian at the bank. So you maybe have certificates, or how the card?
No, so the custodian, the bank, holds the crypto assets, holds the private keys.
Aha. But they hold the private keys?
They hold the private keys for us, yeah.
Do you know how to
And which bank does that? No one is like.
Can you disclose who does that?
Yeah, so it's a Liechtensteinische. It's called. There's one bank doing that in the German-speaking world. We all have the same bank in the crypto world, yeah. It's Bankfrick. It's so they we are partnering really close with them on building that up, because for them it's new as well to do the whole storage, the whole transaction part. So we are building it up with them. So that means like easy things like, okay, we send a transaction request, right? So and then they fill it up, right? And so we get back, okay, how did they transact? What are the costs? And so we are really starting from scratch with them and developing all the processes, all the reports we get back. But they're building up the team, so that I think they hire.
You're sending them the order and they are executing
Yeah.
on your behalf. So
Exactly.
they have the access to the exchanges or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because the issue is, we would have access as well to the exchanges, but we don't want to have access to the client funds, because you either have access to all the funds or to none, right? In crypto, if I have the private key, I can do whatever I want with it, right? And we don't want to have the security issue, and we don't want to impose that on our clients.
How many assets do they list right now?
How many crypto assets we can transact? So, well, let me just. Yeah.
It's growing.
With Swiss code you can do 5.5. With Swiss code. Huh? Which one?
So that's a start. Sorry, that's probably a bit too bright. The starting portfolio is the well-known one. So it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, Ripple, Litecoin. We are currently just working on Neo and Stellar, but should be possible in a couple of weeks. It's not possible, so don't call them and say, oh, I heard you can't trade. We are working on that still. But then the goal is to add others. There are more difficult ones. So IOTA, for example, would be really interesting to have, but that's going to be a longer time because it's just really difficult to store, right? But we have partners also in Switzerland. So there are a couple working on IOTA storage solutions. So Cryptofinance is one. I heard of a bank working on IOTA storage solution. So we are in talks with them, and once we have other players in place which can store.
So which exchange?
The storage will be their own solutions they're building.
Like,
So we need
which exchange should I use to trade?
for IOTA now, or for in general. So it's on via brokers and via exchanges. If it's via brokers, it's in general Bitcoin Swiss. If it's via exchanges, it's Bitstamp and Kraken.
What form of company are you basically?
Aktiengesellschaft.
I have a question. In the European market, there are more and more fund managers or asset managers. So, for example, in the local market here, it's the crypto fund again.
Exactly.
How do you position yourself?
Yeah. So I'd say we are like 2 to 3 players in the Swiss market, and Cryptofinance is the other one, I would say, is big. And they have a broad range of service offerings. So we're actually using them as partners on some parts. So for example, on the IOTA storage, they're working on that. If they manage to do that, we'll partner up with them on that. And then we have certain, well, I'd also say on the managed account side, it's just us because they're doing only products. So if you want to have like an individual solution where you have your advisor and your individual investment strategy, and that's just with us. Cryptofinance doesn't do that. And then on the product side, that's where we compete. But we believe the market is really big for that. And there is one big differentiation. They're doing passive products, so index, so it's like a top 5 or a top 10, not sure yet what's coming, but it's really just the market access. It's a lot cheaper for you to invest. So I think the fee is going to be 2 or 3% on the management and no performance fee. We are a bit more expensive. We have performance fees as well, but we have an active approach to the whole question, because we believe tomorrow's winners are not going to be today's winners. So you want to be in the smaller coins quite early. And if you just in crypto, if you have just a passive approach and invest in the top 5 currencies, you're only going to invest in them once they're big. And we want to be in there earlier enough. So it's a different approach. We are really research-based, active approach, and there it's more like an access story, get easy, cheap access. There's place for both, I'd say.
Do you meet the teams in which you invest actually, like like the regular, like the normal asset managers, right?
Yeah, that's a big part. So if we would go into smaller projects, that's one of the major points. So we are sitting in Crypto Valley. We have our offices there, and that is also going to be where we are as a start. We're going to invest mainly in Swiss-based projects where we can meet the teams. Yeah.
Which criteria do you use to decide in which projects you want to invest?
Basically, those 5. So they need to have a business case. We see a lot of blockchain projects which don't actually need a blockchain. So if you can do a database and it will be cheaper and more efficient, then we don't invest. So if it's a good business case where blockchain technology makes sense, that's an important part. Technology, so we look at the team, are they able to really deliver on the technology they want to implement? What's the community, the ecosystem they're in? That's a really important part for all the tokens which need a community to develop further. There's regulatory risk, so all the privacy token, we are more reluctant. We wouldn't say we don't invest in them, but privacy coins might be interesting from an investment perspective. But if a regulator would start regulating coins, they might start with privacy coins. That's like Monero, Dash, and all those things. So we are a bit reluctant there. And then there's the whole question of monetary design, especially if you invest in ICO. So what's the token structure? How much do they issue? What do they burn?
Thanks for your info so far. I'm curious, you must have to qualify your investors.
Yeah.
Before you act on their behalf. What's the minimum, I don't know, net worth or is there a minimum buy-in that you expect an investor to bring?
So on the product side, there is usually a minimum investment in the product itself of 100,000 euros. But the bank you're investing with, so you call your bank and say, I want to invest in that product, they have to check whether you qualify for that. So if it's the 100,000 you have, then it's only that you have with the bank, then you wouldn't qualify to invest. So the bank has to check that your net worth is big enough to invest in. That then depends on the jurisdiction you're in, how big that has to be. From our side, it has to be just a minimum of 100,000. On the managed account side, there you don't have regulatory restriction. But for us, because it's you need to set up all the accounts for each and every individual. So there the minimum is 50,000 Swiss francs for people to be allowed to invest.
So I guess I'm wondering, how is your company making this a better world? I don't understand this.
Me neither. I'm not sure if you're making...
It seems like you're another asset manager.
Oh yeah.
With a little bit
Totally agree. I would never dare to say we're making this a better world. We believe the blockchain technology is going to be the future, and we believe a lot of people in the blockchain space are going to make a better world. What we are doing is we provide the client funds to invest in those technologies. That's good on one side for those making the blockchain projects, right? Because now we have a lot of investors, like those family offices and wealthy individuals which want to go into the space, but they don't know a lot about it, or they don't want to go through the hassle of getting to know everything. So we get more money in. But ultimately, it's a business case, as every asset manager is. So we want to invest in good projects that make good returns in the end. So
you're making money on the amount of assets under management?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are talking about the entry point. Who is doing the KYC?
Yeah. So on the product, yeah, I have to talk about that. On the product side, it's the bank you're buying the product with. There you have to qualify, or you have to do the KYC there. On the managed account side, we are doing that. So we look at where the funds are coming from and everything. One important part there is we get a lot of requests to that people want to deliver crypto assets directly, right? Because there are a lot of investors that made quite a bit of money in crypto in the recent years, and it's just getting too much to handle themselves. And we have an offering for them as well, right? And we are now figuring out the whole KYC process on those crypto assets. But that's together with the banks, because ultimately they are sending the crypto assets to our partner bank, right? They have to agree there on the KYC and on the source of funds. So it's a bit more complicated on if you're sending crypto assets, but we are working on that. That's going to be possible as well. Yeah. Yeah.
So how many people do you have screening for potential investment opportunities on your team?
Yeah, we are building that up now. We founded the company as 5 of us, and but we're not all doing the research on the project. So my job isn't looking at every individual project. So we are building that up currently. We are hiring a couple of people to really build that up and have a whole research desk on that.
And basically they spend time reading white papers and talking to the founders, or how is it set up?
Yeah, it's basically like that. So first step is getting rid of the 90% that we're not going to invest in, right? Because usually that's quite easy to get rid of the first part. But then the remaining 10% is still a lot of projects, a lot of companies, and those are evaluated more deeply. So that means that we go through all those parts. We try to get to know the teams, but it's also a process we are currently setting up. So because we start with investing in the bigger coins, that's not the bigger issue currently. But while we are building up this research team, we are building up also the processes around that.
But do you have some thoughts how do you want to evaluate teams whether they will be successful in building blockchain or crypto solution?
Yeah, so there are measures you can look at. You can talk with the people, then you get to know them quite well as well. And what we also do is we have an advisory board, and among them is Fabian Schär. He's in academia quite well known in the crypto space, and we look at projects together with him. Then we have someone from the IT space, which is really good in looking at whether you really you need a blockchain for that or not. So we have a team of experts from outside as well, which help us additionally on the evaluation. Yeah.
You don't have to answer this, but what percentage of cryptocurrencies make up your personal portfolio?
My personal, I started with what we tell our clients, was just investing like around 5% of wealth in crypto assets.
I'm asking, what do you?
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah,
did.
The issue is that crypto assets grew quicker than the rest, right? So then you start having more than that.
So now it's more than that. Fair enough.
And you did not rebalance, right?
Sorry?
And you didn't rebalance.
Rebalance, you mean like selling and taking cash? Well, I did a bit end of the year. But because we are building up a company, and there you need a bit of cash as well, right? But not everything.
Can you give us 2 words on your fee structure?
Sorry? Yeah, so on both sides, we have the classical fee structure from the hedge fund world. So we have 2% management fee and 20% performance fee. That's actually quite straightforward.
It's like private equity structure.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a little bit more time because we're waiting for you to connect.
The fee is paid in crypto.
Sorry?
The fee is paid in crypto.
Good point. We're actually that's one question we are currently looking at, whether we have to define it or whether we should allow the client to decide. So in the product, it's going to be in fiat, because it's the administrator who takes a fee as well, and then he pays us. And the administrator is a Swiss fund administration company, so they don't want to be paid in crypto. So they take fiat and give us fiat. On the managed accounts, both would be possible, but we are probably starting with just fiat, just to make it easier. But we wouldn't mind holding crypto as a company. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you very much.